Good evening from the new shed in West London. I'm Stuart Hughes, and a very, very warm welcome to the second edition of Bees Bulletin Live. Should we have the opening trailer? I do think it is going to be a very good evening and an even better tomorrow, an even better Saturday, because we've broken the 100-day milestone. But tomorrow, finally, after a wait of 105 days, Brentford are back, and it's a day that many of us thought many times over may not come. But at 12:30 tomorrow, Craven Cottage, the Sky Bet Championship season resumes. And how fitting is it that it's the mighty Bees who are leading the way, as ever, with the opening match against Fulham. It's going to be football, but not as we know it. And we'll be talking about how we feel about the prospect of watching the boys from afar on TV rather than in the ground. But whatever reservations we may have about matches being played behind closed doors, what the stadium atmosphere is going to be like, how we feel about not being able to be there, at least we have got our football back. And to celebrate, I've even spent some money on a Bees Bulletin Live flag. None of your Zoom backgrounds here. This is the real thing, although I noticed probably could do with an iron, but I like to think that it's a bit more authentic, and I was a bit stuck for time. But you know, no expense spared on Bees Bulletin Live this evening. We could probably talk about football until midnight, and maybe we will, because we'd be too excited to go to bed and try to sleep because we're playing tomorrow. But that largely depends on you getting involved and leading the conversation, which you can do by commenting via the message and chat functions on Facebook and YouTube, depending on how you're watching. And I really do encourage you to get involved, because I have my top Bees Bulletin Live team with me this evening. They are ready for your questions and to answer your queries and to get involved in your chat. And look, in the bottom right-hand corner, after the problems that we had in episode 1, Marcus Gale is here. Marcus.
Good evening, everybody.
You see, he's there. We can hear him. We can see him. Nothing can go wrong. The football gods are smiling with us. I believe it is an omen that times are going to be good for Brentford. If Marcus is here, nothing can go wrong. Gentlemen, good evening. It has been a very long wait. How are you feeling about seeing those red and white stripes again? Mick?
It's like going. It's like a new day, a new term, isn't it? It's like going back to school when you used to go back in September and you used to see all your friends. So it's kind of. It has been a long time. It's not like a close season at all. The fixtures haven't come out. The fixtures have always been there, and it was always whether we could actually revisit these games. So we kind of remember that Fulham game back in March and how exciting it was, and coming off the back of a 5-0, what were we going to do? So yeah, it's like a new term. It's going to be a very short term, but this could be really exciting. It's all about 9 games, and it's just a sprint. It's just a sprint. But these games come in thick and fast. How are Brentford going to react? Are they going to get out the traps? Is it going to be a slow build to form, but they can have a good crack at it? 4th in the table. They've got to chase down the top 2, and then if they don't chase down the top 2, we can go through the playoffs. So exciting times ahead, and it's just fantastic to have football to come back to. That's the most important thing, Steve.
And have your say already. The messages are starting to come in. It's good to see you all. Thank you for joining us, and do send your messages. My first question to you is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about tomorrow? You can put a word, a sentence, a paragraph. Just let us know how you're feeling about the match ahead. I'm certainly excited. And somebody who's probably even more excited than me is Mark Burridge, because he is in a privileged position. This is one for your memoirs, Mark, as I said to you earlier this week, because unlike most of us, you're actually going to be in the stadium itself, watching the games that we can't get to as part of the commentary team. And I know the plan of how the commentary is going to work for both television and radio has been worked on for a period of time, and has been changing a lot. Hopefully it's been finalised now, maybe it hasn't. But for those of us who are going to be watching and listening, tomorrow in the game afterwards with West Brom is maybe a little easier because it's on Sky, and a lot of people will be watching that way. But some of the other games won't be on Sky. So just talk me through the conversations that you've been having, how it's all going to work. Give us a sort of beginner's guide of how we're going to be able to watch and listen to the matches that we've got ahead.
Well, we'll be actually starting our programme at 12:15 tomorrow. That's when we'll be going live. I understand if you tune in before then, there's adverts and footage and so on and so forth, so you can engage from before then. What we'll be doing, I'll be doing the commentary tomorrow with Chris. Mick is down to do all the other games. It was due to a ruling which is very complicated. Obviously, the media team are struggling with numbers in the ground, and there was a consideration at one time that Mick and I might actually be doing it from Stockley Park, not in the VAR room. We've been commentating there because that would have been an alternative to me being at the ground and Mick actually being in the studio. But then there was a concern about a possible delay on the line, and then there was also a problem about social distancing in the studio, I understand. So I'll be doing it tomorrow with Chris. Chris is our head of media. He's a brilliant summariser. He's an even better commentator, very tactically astute as well. He's got 1,000,001 things to do there and didn't particularly want to be doing this, but he'll do a great job, and it would be great to have it with us. But Mick and I are feeling very privileged and very grateful to be able to have this opportunity to bring the games to the fans. We know how difficult it will be. Certainly empathise with how frustrating it is to be at home watching the games when you wish you were there, particularly when we're back at Griffin Park. That is going to be painful. How, in its way, I said, guess what we've seen in the world has been a lot of tragedy the last few months. So that wouldn't be a word to use, but it's so desperately disappointing and unfortunate that of all seasons, this is the last one that we should be blighted by this pandemic. But we will be doing our best to get the game to you, have some sort of feel, some sort of tempo. It will be an audio commentary, although a lot of people will be obviously watching the game as well, but not everyone is. A lot of people will also be getting audio. So we will do it as we do on Match Day Live, where the overseas listeners can be viewing and the UK listeners are actually got audio. Of course, there's the change there's the 3 o'clock cutoff now, so you can watch all games. And it might be a little bit frustrating for some if we're saying there's a free kick 10 yards outside the penalty area and people are saying, well, I can see that. But it is the way it is. These are difficult times. They're unprecedented, as we know. And everything at the moment is a short-term solution to an extraordinary problem.
And Mick, once the warm-up act in the form of Chris Wickham and Mark Burridge have done tomorrow at Fulham, then it's time for the main event. They bring on the big guns because you'll be joining for the remaining 8 games, starting with West Brom. Yeah,
looking forward to that. I mean, it's going to be, as we said, some packed games in there. I mean, we go to West Brom, we host West Brom on the Friday night and then off to Reading on the Tuesday. So it's going to be real jam-packed, full of fixtures there, and it's all about the momentum. And like Mark has laid out there, it's going to be very different in how we do things with no crowd interaction and how we do the commentary. But the best way of doing this is obviously giving it with a Brentford feel. That's the most important thing, is that we are Brentford through and through. We know the history of the club. We know the players like all the fans do. So it's one of these things of people sometimes will only take the audio commentary, and if that's what they're going to do, then hopefully we'll do them the utmost service in bringing that game to them. But yeah, we're in an extremely privileged position that the club has given us, and so hopefully we'll repay that faith by giving an accurate reflection and summary of the games that we see.
And Mark and Mick, just give us a sense, because we all hope it's all going to go technically very well, and it's going to be smooth, and we're going to enjoy the game even if we can't be there. But give us a sense of some of the challenges you're going to have to overcome, because obviously you're going to have to, I don't know whether you're wearing masks or doing hand sanitizer, but it's not going to be like a normal game. So given that we've got the fans watching tonight, give us a sense of if we get frustrated, if the feed goes down or if anything goes slightly wrong, just give us a sense of what you're going to be dealing with. So maybe rather than sending you an abusive tweet or message, we got a sense of what actually you're expecting. How's it all going to work on a match day?
Well, smoothly, I hope, Stuart. You've got to have faith in the technology that it will all work. We can only do what we do at our end. The rest is down to I follow. There have been the odd occasion, not so much this season. We did have some issues through a part of last season where we're having to reboot, and I understand other clubs were having the same problem. But it's been very smooth this season. Touch wood, I hope that continues. But there are a lot of, you talked about face masks. Mick and I, if we're going to Stoke and Derby, 2 long-distance games, we've got to travel in separate vehicles, which is...
I've got to say, actually, if I was going anywhere near Stoke, I'd probably wear a face mask, even without coronavirus. But I know what you're saying.
Well, it's whether the rules will be relaxed by that time is a few weeks away. We don't know, but that's the regulations at the moment. We've seen the Premier League. We've seen how they're not taking any chance with this, and rightly so. I've watched quite a lot of the Bundesliga the last few weeks, just trying to get an idea of how the greats like Darren Fletcher and Paul Dempsey commentate behind closed doors, and they've been arming themselves with facts. I guess because most people watching over here aren't really engaged with either team. But tomorrow, there's no point in telling you how many appearances all the Brentford players have had this year, because people watching will know that. So sometimes less is more, and we'll try and navigate our way through it and make it as much fun as possible. But so much, as always, Stuart, depends on the game. It's difficult not to make a good game, an exciting game, sound good, and vice versa. The big trouble will be, of course, without any atmosphere whatsoever, without the fans. This isn't football as we know it. It's not real football. It's just a short-term solution. It's almost like a summer tournament, isn't it? We didn't have the Euros, we haven't had the World Cup, but we've got these 9 games and potentially the playoff finals to get us through the summer in some way, and kick off at different times. So it's a matter of working our way into it and try and make sure the fans have as much fun as possible.
And Marcus, unfortunately, you and I are going to be the bridesmaids rather than the brides, because we're going to be sitting at home listening to these boys on the stadium. How are you going to watch your? Actually, before I ask you this, a chance for those watching. How are you? Tell us how you're going to be watching the game tomorrow. You're going to be watching it on your own, with a family? Are you maybe in the garden, socially distanced, with a projector outside? It's forecasting 19 degrees, no rain tomorrow. Maybe a few beers and a barbecue in order. If you're in another part of the world, let us know on the message chat on Facebook and YouTube how you're going to be watching the game tomorrow. But Marcus, how are you going to be watching the game tomorrow?
I'll be watching it live. I will be tuning into iFollow as well. I've bought the TV off, so the missus, she knows that's my time. So that's all in the calendar. So I'm looking forward to the game, looking forward to the commentary from the guys. They're going to do a fantastic job anyway. There won't be any hiccups or anything, so it will all run smooth.
I think it will, and I don't want to stress the negatives. I want to stress the positives. But just to get that clear, that if there's iFollow problems tomorrow or during the next 9 games, don't blame Marcus and Mick. Don't blame anybody, actually. It's just they're working under very difficult circumstances, and they're doing their absolute best to bring the game to us. And the club's also, gents, doing what it can to create some sort of match day experience. I see that the season ticket holders have been invited to send selfies that's going to be printed on giant banners. They're going to be placed around Griffin Park during our remaining games at Griffin Park, which seems a terrifying thought of somebody's eight foot face or 8 foot stomach appearing. But it does feel that the fans, that the club's doing what it can to get the fans in the stadium, if you like, in some way, even if they can't be there physically, Mick. Yeah,
I think it's coming up with the good ideas. It's making people feel that they're part of this, and this is where this is good, Stu. This is, we want people to be involved tonight and give Marcus, our main guest, the questions, and just to kind of interact. Let's get the feeling back at Brentford again. We were all at a buzz in March with the tail end of the season coming, and what we've got now is it's going to happen. So if it's going to happen, how does everybody feel at home? Are they excited tomorrow? Is it one of these things of where you're not actually attending the game, you don't feel part of it? And as Mark says, I think the key is we beat the Fulham tomorrow, then all of a sudden everybody kind of gets back into it very, very quickly. And that's the main key. I mean, we've got a great record against Fulham as well, especially at the Cottage. So it's something everybody is looking forward to. You get one over on the old enemy, and then you start to feel the juices beginning to flow again. So it's kind of really good to get back into football. And I think the club are doing everything they can to make the supporters feel part of that. We're very much a community club. We're very much, you know, the heartbeat of the club is the supporters, and the players get that. So the fact that the players are playing on their own at Craven Cottage, as Thomas Frank has already said, it's about everybody being a B together tomorrow, and it's about the last 9 games giving a push, and who knows where we'll end up. It may be in the top level.
And I was wondering how the players themselves are going to adapt to this new behind closed doors strange scenario. And I'm going to ask for your thoughts on that, Marcus, as someone who'll know better than any of us what may be going through their heads. But first of all, Thomas Frank gave a pre-match press conference yesterday via Zoom, using technology. We're all using Zoom. Not only are we using them for work, but also the club's now holding its press conferences remotely. And I asked Thomas Frank this very question about how the players and the team themselves are getting their heads around the idea of not having fans there to cheer them on. And this is what he had to say.
You always mention the fans in your post-match press conferences. It's going to be a very unusual match day experience this time. Notice watching the games in the Prem yesterday, the sort of flatness there. I'll be talking to some of the fans doing a live show tomorrow evening, and I just wonder what you would say to them of how they can make their support for the boys known, given that they won't be there. You won't be able to hear them cheering on Ealing Road. How will you get the sense from the fans that they're behind you in this very sort of unprecedented situation?
That's a good question, because it's difficult, because fans these days, of course, is a lot about being present on the stadium, making a lot of noise and support us. 2 things I would say. One thing, we know that in our heart, they're also always with us, and we know that they will do everything they can to try to push us or support us, and we know they will be there for us. The only thing is, in these social media days, they can definitely be very positive there. I think that's maybe the key. If I don't know how it works, not in details, but they could be very positive in every feedback they feed out there on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is, instead of being too angry when we lose a game, because that could happen. It's football, so make sure they support us. And we know it's a short season, so we need to get past the setbacks as quick as possible and move forward, because we have something very exciting in front of us. So we'll miss them massively, but we know they're with us.
Thomas Frank also always speaking from the heart. There he is there. I get a sense he's not a big social media user himself, but who can blame him? He's got more important things to worry about, but knows how much social media plays a big part in the way that we talk about and think about football. So he's saying, keep it positive on social media and accentuate the positive rather than the negative, because I guess there could be a danger that depending on how the next few games go on the social media, if we do well, we'll get overexcited. If we do badly, we'll blow it out of all proportion. So maybe just a little bit of a call for calm there from Thomas Frank. But Marcus, as somebody who will know what the players are thinking this evening as they prepare for the first match day in quite some time, what do you think? If you were still playing at the top level, how would you be preparing for the thought of an empty stadium? Would you do anything differently?
There's no difference at all. You're out there to do a job, to complete your task and try and get the team 3 points. So having no fans there will make a difference, because every time you do a good action in the game, you get that reaction from the crowd. So when you look at, say, Ben Rama doing a nutmeg, what sound does he hear when he does that? He hears the crowd's elation over it, their joy, and it gives him that little spur to maybe try another trick. When he does that tomorrow, there's not going to be no sort of reaction. He could take it into like a training game mode, but it's a real live game, obviously. So as a professional, you just got to stick to your job.
And can you approach the match in the same way, given that, I've never played at the bottom level, let alone the top level, but I'm sure when you walk out on any pitch, Griffin Park or home or away, you know, when you hear the roar of the crowd, you get that boost of adrenaline, which you're not going to get tomorrow. So do you think, you know, you will, despite the best preparation, say, yes, I'm going to do things, everything's going to be the same? Do you think the players will be able to react in exactly the same way in front of an empty stadium?
Well, we're hopeful that they can just react as they would normally. But both sets of players have to adapt to the new changes at this moment in time with no fans there. So whoever can settle down the best will have the best footing in the game. But I think Brentford will be quietly confident in starting this match. I think the first 15 minutes or so, there's going to be some nervous energy being put out there. And then after that, the technical side should come into it. And hopefully we can make that breakthrough. But it's going to be a very tactical match.
And a question from our friend Jim Levac. And Jim, if you haven't read Jim's rallying cry on Besotted, Jim, I was half tempted to try and get you on this evening. So apologies. I only read your Besotted piece just before we came on air. But there's a rallying cry to get behind the boys from Jim Levac on Besotted. But he raises a question for you, Marcus. Will our technical superiority be an advantage in an empty stadium against sides who maybe are a bit less technically gifted, but are able to sort of leverage the momentum they get from the crowd? Are we actually at a better position playing in front of empty stadiums because, you know, we've got the talent to take advantage of it?
Well, the talent has to come out. It has to mature and perform as it should do. Look, the game without fans is not the same game. Let's get that clear. You know, without the fans, it's not the same game. But as a player, you have to go out and just do your job to the letter of the law from what the manager's giving out there. The impact you can have. I just feel that Brentford will just not coast through the game without the fans, but I don't think it's really going to have an impact on them in terms of how we're going to play and our approach to it. But there's no crowd to keep quiet, for instance. You're not playing a ferocious fan base, so that's not going to really have any effect on us as a team. But you just want the boys to settle down, adapt to new conditions, and just perform.
All right, 99 days originally, 99 days later than originally planned, and 105 days since our last competitive game. Let's look ahead to the thing we're all thinking about: Brentford versus Fulham, the top two teams in the form table, and we're going to tear this game apart even before a ball has been kicked. We're going to look at it in depth, but first of all, let's hear what Thomas Frank had to say. Again, this is what Thomas had to say about the match ahead in his pre-match press conference.
I would say the only thing compared to a normal preseason that you would have had 2 or 3 more friendly games to play, just to build the fitness, but also to build that relationship with the players between each other. But fitness-wise, it's strength conditioning. No concern. The players just show unbelievable attitude and hard work, and just came back in a very, very good place when we started. The home advantage is mainly the fans who give that home advantage. That's the biggest single part of everything when you try to measure that or try to describe that. So I think we'll see much more away wins in general in the championship compared to normal. We already also have seen that in the Bundesliga, for example. What we've been saying the whole season is the most important thing is the training tomorrow. Then the most important game is the game on Saturday. And after that, it's the training next day on Monday. And so it's going forward. But I think we will still continue doing that. The next bit, we have 9 plus potentially 3 games to go. And of course, our aim is to get promoted. We are in a place where, we are in a good place and a good position of the league. We don't take anything for granted. We know it's unbelievable competitive league, but we trust ourselves. We believe we're in a good place. So first and foremost, of course, need to secure that playoff spot. But as long as there is a chance, we'll go for that.
And it's those words that Thomas Frank said that some of the journalists have picked up on. Here's a piece from the Evening Standard this evening. Brentford boss Thomas Frank eyeing Fulham and West Brom wins as B's target automatic promotion. Mark, despite us being slightly off the top 2, it does seem that Thomas is still saying, hey, it's all to play for. Automatic promotion hasn't been ruled out of his mind yet. Mark.
No, and I think it very much depends on those first two games, doesn't it? If you get 6 points, then you start to put pressure on West Brom and Leeds. Looking at their run-ins, West Brom and Leeds, they've got some tough games, but they've got some games that they will certainly be fancying themselves for 3 points. So it's a big ask, but win those first two, and anything can happen. Then you get momentum. If that doesn't happen, then I think we're just looking to consolidate ourselves in the playoffs and time ourselves to peak for the playoff final, which a lot of people were thinking could well be Fulham.
And I think Mrs. Cabble is hard at work in the kitchen by the sounds of things. I just pictured you for a moment because I could hear the cutlery. What's for dinner tonight in the Cabble household?
It's a cup of tea coming. Stu's got to keep me refreshed. Siobhan, who's a big Brentford fan as well, she's making me a cup of tea, so keeping me refreshed in making sure we can go through for the 90 minutes.
One sugar for me, Siobhan, if you wouldn't mind. That would be just the ticket. But automatic promotion still not out of Thomas Frank's thinking, Mick.
No, not at all. You chase them down. It's really interesting, these 9 games, is that Brentford have always, for many years, kind of targeted them in 3s and 6s. They take the games. Every professional says they take each game as it comes, but Brentford's slightly different. They actually target them in pockets of 3 games at a time. And if you look at these 9 games, I'm sure that the analysts and the technical people will have been working at this, is that it's Fulham, West Brom and Reading. You get them 3, and we were looking at this, they'll have a mental target of how many points they want to get. As Mark says, you get 6 points out of that. Then you move into a slightly easier section where you've got a couple of home games and Derby away. And then if you could get 7 points out of 9 out of that, then you do the last 3 games where you've got Barnsley at home and you've got another home game in that as well. And if you could get 9 out of 9 as you're kind of pushing towards promotion, these are the kinds of targets that Thomas Frank would have. So you actually split them up into games of 3. We know that probably the toughest out of the 9 games are going to be the first 2. You could afford to lose 1, but if you actually total that up and they go 6, 7 and 9 in them kind of segment of 3 games, you end up with 82 points. 82 points may not catch Leeds and West Brom, but the actual thing is you're going to run them pretty close.
Question from Patrick, who says, I'll give this one to you, Marcus. Do you think the players will be both mentally and physically ready from the restart? From everything you're saying, the answer is yes, absolutely. They're professional athletes. They are trying to cope with the situation, as we all are, and are sort of getting their heads around everything that's happened in the last few months. But they are, they don't do this for fun. They're professional athletes, and do you think that they will be as ready as they possibly can be, even though obviously their training regime and their match fitness will be slightly affected?
Both teams will be ready to go. They're going to be so excited just to get a serious game, a derby game as such as well, back on. So they'll be mentally and physically prepared the best they can. I just think that there's going to be stages where the niggly little injuries might play a toll, and that would make the head coach's decisions to make subs. That's going to make that extra bit of difference in there. But mentally and physically, the players will both be ready.
And it's going to be quite a challenge, Mark. I'll give this one to you. Fulham, one of the form teams, lost just twice in 2020. Some saying that they should be doing even better given the resources that they've got available to them. But it is going to be, if it wasn't a tough enough test for the Bees already, coming back after so long out, then they've got a tough 2 games to start, not let alone 1.
They have, and I think Fulham's been one of those teams. It's crazy where Barnsley are, and Barnsley have done the double over them. They've put in the odd really poor performance, and they haven't been able to find consistency. You always expect the quality teams to come right at the end of the season. Remember a couple of seasons ago when they had a good run, when we played them around December time, beat them by 3-1 when they had Dennis and Joy sent off. They finished above us that season in the end, had a terrific run. And I think their fans are hoping that they're going to come strong at the end. The break will probably change that. We are sort of starting again. They haven't, as far as I know, had training games. We have done. As far as we know, there haven't been any serious injuries. We've seen in the Premier League, there's already been some. The linesman, even at the Northampton game last night, he pulled up with a hamstring injury after 2 minutes and had to be replaced. So are we going to see that? We know how good the medical team is. We know how good the sports science team is at Brentford. And I think you're just going to need, Stuart, a little bit of luck with injuries and substitutions under these new rules. How important are they going to be? There's going to be one or two brilliant substitutions that work well for the managers of any team. And we have got that strength in depth. We've obviously got players coming back now as well. We've got some very exciting youngsters. A massive fan of Maz Roslev. I think he's a real one for the future, bombing down that right-hand side. He's only going to get better. Zambarek as well. So I think this will suit us. This whole run-in will suit us. The youth on our side with the experienced heads. It's a lovely blend, and I'm really confident we are going to get the job done.
Have your say if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. Tell us what you think, what your expectations, what your hopes are for the game, and we will bring some of those messages up as we go along. Mick, are you thinking of this game in the same way as the previous 38? I think it was. Is this just a continuation of the 38 that came before, or are you thinking of it almost like a new season, a clean slate, and everything that came before is kind of difficult to judge because of the length of the gap that we've had since we last played competitively?
This is one of the most 4 important games in the season. There's 2 at home against Fulham and QPR and 2 away against Fulham and QPR for the supporters. So to me, Brentford have the derby system really well. Thomas Frank gets it. Peter Gillam for the QPR game gives them all a stirring speech, and I'm sure they know the local history. One of the things that we know about local derbies is that the players that come in from abroad they sense in the supporters what it means to us. Fulham away, Fulham at home. Fulham players don't quite get it. They don't quite understand it. I think Scott Parker realised that in December, because Brentford were running 2 yards quicker and they were running a lot further than Fulham were. They were putting everything into it. And Thomas Frank was so ecstatic at just that 1-0 win that could have easily been 4 or 5-0 back in December. It was one of the best performances of the season. So in answer to your question, Stuart, I understand what you're saying. This is a run of 9 games, but this is a very important game just for the whole club in momentum. If they get a result against the Head tomorrow, because Fulham at home should be favourites. Fulham are looking to chase down the top 2. It just throws everything up in the air. You just look at it and you just get some momentum. If you can get some momentum in these 9 games, then if you can't get into the top 2, then you just need to be the form team in the playoffs. And we know Brentford are technically adept, and on their day, they are the best team in the division. It's just, can they put that together for a 9-game streak to put these other sides to the sword? It's going to be intriguing watch. And like I say, I think we're all very excited to see what goes on tomorrow.
Marcus, are you thinking of it as game 39, or are you thinking of it as game 1?
I'm looking at it as game 1, because this is a different time now. We've had that long layoff. Players have had a break when they don't normally have a break. So I'm looking at this as a fresh sort of restart. And the fact that you got players that are coming back from injuries that in the original fixture they probably would have been ruled out. So it's got to be a fresh start in my head. And as the guys have been saying on there, if we can just get off to a good restart, that would be really good.
And gents, Mark, I'll ask you first. Is there anything that you've picked up from the friendly games, the bits that you may have seen? Anything? Have you got any hints or any thoughts there that you thought may be a little tip for the 9 games ahead?
Oh, it's interesting if you look at Tarek Fosu, who scored the last goal against which we thought at one time might be the last ever goal at Griffin Park. Let's hope it's not now, against Sheffield Wednesday. He scored 3 from 4. Baptiste, we've heard wonderful things about. He was the one that all the Oxford fans were raving about, said he is your man, he's a Premier League player. We've only seen little cameos from him at Cardiff. He came on and got got taken off with injuries. He's looked good in the pre-season games, as we can call it that now, the mini season. And I think they're going to be two very pivotal players for us. So we have that really good squad, and we're going to have some of these youngsters who have shown these glimpses. Dervisoglu, 2 goals. That first one against Arsenal, you could see in his little celebration, what a relief. He's got that first goal. And, will he get some time, some game time? He probably will. There's going to be times you make substitutions. Look at Ollie Watkins. He's been never present this season. He's had the break now. But with these games coming thick and fast, it's going to be a matter of trying to get the result in the bag and sending on some troops who can see out a game. And it's going to be incredibly exciting, guys.
Mick, anything that you've seen from the 2 friendlies against Arsenal and Watford that's caught your eye that you think may give us some clues about how the games to come are going to go?
Just seeing that, as Mark says, the players that are kind of what we would call probably off the bench players, those are the ones that are kind of probably make a telling. If you're going to make a move in a kind of push, there's players that just jump out of the pack. And, I'm just looking at Baptiste. Baptiste, is a really exciting talent in midfield. I just feel that with everything that's going to be going on in these 9 games, that one of the things Thomas Frank said in, I think it was the Griffin Park Grapevine interview that he did during lockdown, was he was very self-analytical in that he said that his substitutions could be not so time friendly. It was always a case, should we make one on 60, should we make one on 75, and should we make one on 83, or push it later if we were winning? And I get the feeling he actually kind of said, maybe I'll do that a little bit earlier. Maybe I'll think about that a little earlier. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing. I think the substitutions, I think you may see Watkins go off earlier, for instance, and everybody be surprised. But I think this is about conditioning the players. And I think it's about tactics. And the Brentford are going to be playing the same way, but they could almost play with 2 sides. And that's the key to this, is that Thomas Frank has been very clear that this isn't going to be about 11 or 14 players. It's going to be about the whole squad being ready to come on, whether it's for half an hour or whether it's for 5 minutes. So I think there's going to be players. Marcondes is another interesting one. It seems such a long time ago, 100 days since he cracked that one in against Sheffield Wednesday, and everyone went, what a goal. But then you look at it, in Jensen's back, he's not injured anymore. So, you have opportunities there in the middle of the park. Josh Da Silva we're talking about. So there are plenty of players to come in and make a difference. But I just think that, somebody like Baptiste is going to be pivotal in anything that we do going forward.
And Marcus, you, obviously, as we've been saying, these are professional athletes. They've been training. It's not like they've been sitting watching Loose Women for the last 3 months. They've been carrying on with their training.
I hope not.
Hope, actually. That'll be a story. But that, we often say that we often talk about the demanding nature of the Championship because the games come so thick and fast. But is it going to be any more physically demanding on the players playing games in quick succession than it otherwise would have been? Because they would have been playing quite a lot of games in a short period of time anyway.
I think the most important thing is the recovery straight after matches. I think with the invention of sports science, the players, they can recover a lot quicker than what I would have done back in my day. So I think that's a major plus point for all the players that are currently playing in this division. And I think that's definitely going to be a plus point and help the players perform. The squad is now a very vast squad. Everybody's fit, everybody's training. There's got to be some unhappy players in that squad that are not going to make the final 19 or 20 spaces for the match day. And that's going to be a good thing. So the test is going to be for Thomas to manage those players that may not be in that, that final match day squad. And any coach or the whole team and the backroom staff are going to be concerned about injuries and the health and welfare of the players anyway. They always are. But do you think are we going to see a different style of play, given that, hey, we've got 9 games in just a few weeks to play? We're going to have to play slightly different tactically and maybe a little go in a little softer, just in case
that these little niggles that may get picked up will be exacerbated by the pace of the games. What do you think about that, Marcus?
I don't think the tactics will change much. I think everybody's just attuned to the style of play that Thomas wants and demands. I just think it's going to be a squad match for 9 matches where everybody's going to need to be counted on at some stage. Doesn't matter the amount of minutes they may play, but everyone is vitally important to push this team all the way through. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't think the teams are going to hold back anything, really. I think as the games get closer towards the end, then you might see a surge in sort of tempo and sort of ambition in the way the team plays.
All right, gents, one by one, starting with you, Mark. Let's break it down. You're going to be there, obviously, in person. Break the game down for us as you see it. Just before, what are we, about 16, 18 hours from kickoff?
There's a couple of, looking at the team that played last time for Fulham, there's a couple of players who are rated very highly, haven't really done that much this season. One is CABBLE, who obviously was with Wolves. He signed halfway through the season, made his loan permanent. And Anthony Knockard, who's been superb for Brighton, but really been a little bit of a bit part player. Has been mainly a substitute coming on, and Cameron's played up front with Mitrovic. Will the break see the best of CABBLE and Knockart? They've also got Bobby and De Cordova-Reid, who used to be known as Bobby Reid. A decent player, very good at Bristol City, converted midfielder. That was down to the analytics team, who looked at his stats and decided that he could convert into a striker. And of course, he was prolific for Bristol City. Went to Cardiff, didn't really work out in a tough season for them in the Premier League, and he finds himself at Fulham. So they've got quality all over the pitch, but I really think the game is going to be won in midfield again. Harry Arter and Tom Kearney, possibly against Matthias Jensen, and I would say my favourite player this season, Christian Norgard. That is going to be a fascinating, mouth-watering contest. And of course, up front, the BMW taking on Michael Hector and Tim Ream. Tim Ream, an experienced American international. Michael Hector, he's at 17 clubs. He's been loaned out to a number over the years. But he's a quality player. Of course, went to Chelsea, got loaned back to Reading. They've got quality over the pitch. We've got quality over the pitch. It will be a fascinating game. Even first one back, I don't expect this one to be a disappointing one for the Sky cameras. It's going to be very, very close. I know Marcus is going for 1-0 to the Bees. I'm hoping for 3-1 to the Bees, and we can look to make some substitutes late on. But it's going to be a terrific game, even without the crowds there. I think the football on display will be good. One thing we've seen in the Bundesliga, it didn't take any time for the quality sides to come up to scratch. Quality shone through right from the start, and I think you've just got two outstanding teams here, and it should be a wonderful game.
Mick, over to you. Give us your, I know you're not commentating on the match tomorrow, but give us your sense of how you think it'll all play out.
I think it's how well Brentford defend. The Brentford success this season is how well they defend. Pontus Jansson will be back tomorrow, and I think the big key in this is Christian Norgard. Norgard plays well, Brentford play well. It's end of story. He is Mr. Brentford this season. Everyone goes on about the BMW. For me, Norgard is the difference. He is the calming influence, and he's the shield in front of the back four. We've got Pontus Jansson back tomorrow with Ethan Pinnock, and if Norgard stops Kearney is inventive. He's a very good player. But if you nullify the threat, as we did in December, then our attacking prowess takes over. And that's the key to Brentford's success this season. We've always been attacking the 6 seasons in the Championship. But the difference is that we're much more steely at the back. And Pontus back tomorrow and Norgard playing well. And I take Brentford to take all 3 points.
And Marcus, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I agree with both Mick and Mark with how the team will approach it, the players involved. I think it's huge that Pontus Jansson is back. I spoke to Josh De Silva yesterday, and he said in this original fixture there was a few injuries that were quite niggly, and you can see the importance of Pontus was that Josh was calling him to say, are you going to make it? So you can see how important Pontus is at the back for the team, and hopefully he's there tomorrow, because that battle with him and Mitrovic is going to be something to watch and to keenly watch and sort of see who's going to come out on top. The thing for me, I think the weaknesses of Fulham is that he's got so many sort of star players or quality players, is that he's trying to fit them all into a team, and you can't actually do that. If they're not quite great team players and humble with that, they're gonna fall apart. And I think that's where Brentford will find the weaknesses to capitalise. So as Mark said, the midfield is the key area, but for me, it's at the back. That's the rock. That's the foundation. We know what the front three can do, but they also need Norsgaard in that middle to keep things just ticking over, and bringing the creative players into play, so we can look to go and win the game.
Marcus mentioned Pontus there, Mark, and Pontus being back, not a big boost for us, not only as a player but also as that figurehead, that guy who, if things are going badly, he can rally the team, and if things are going well, he can keep the momentum going.
Yeah, we saw that early in the season. Mick will remember this up at Middlesbrough. We were under the cosh towards the end of the first half, and he was just there saying to the team, like, calm down, take it easy. It was something we hadn't seen there for a long time. Harley Dean was a good leader in his way, but Pontus, with due respect to Harley, he's at a different level. And it was great to see as supporters see that out there. It gave us a calming feel as well. It definitely worked on the players. He managed them through the game. We were hanging on at time, but then we got our goal and became comfortable, never looked like conceding. And we saw what Pontus is all about. We've got 9 clean sheets when he's been in the team. When he's not, we've got 2. He hasn't played since the Queen's Park Rangers home game. We know our form's been a little bit stuttery. We've shown our class. I feel in some of the games we've been unfortunate not to get the 3 points. And apart from spells at Luton, where we were very poor, as everyone knows, I don't think our form has been really poor all season. So I would say it's just a monumental boost for us, and I don't think Fulham have got anyone like that they could look to. Apart from the quality of Mitrovic, who they rely on very, very heavily, I don't think there's such a key player in his way. Although you wouldn't want to be missing any of our players, would you? There are no weaknesses in this team now. We saw Josh's form slip a little bit, and then he found it again. Had a very good game at Cardiff, and then he was brilliant against Sheffield Wednesday. Brian, we know his form dipped because he's a youngster, played a lot of games in France, and it's a tough season. It's relentless, so he's had a bit of a break as well. Rico Henry had injury problems in the past. He's been an ever-present this season. How good has he been? He's another one that all the speculation is clubs looking in. But why would you not look at any Brentford players? Everyone is a huge value to our team, a value to the club, and I wouldn't want to swap our players, for Fulham's team. And I say that with due respect to a very, very good team. That's Fulham.
Mick, any worries? We've talked about the strengths, the positives, and obviously that's what we want to focus on. Is there anything in the back of your mind that any concerns that you have, or what's your biggest worry for tomorrow?
My worry is that the players think about the prize too much. They think about points and must-win games. I think that if they play with a clean mind and a clear head, and they are talented enough. I saw it at Huddersfield away. Mark and Marcus will remember this because we were chatting about it. We've chatted about it pre-show. It's the first time I ever saw a Brentford team play with a few nerves. Leeds went down to QPR and I believe QPR won. Leeds missed the penalty and such like. And we went into the Huddersfield game and we actually said, do you know what, if we win this today, we really are going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. And, we're better than this Huddersfield side. And Huddersfield spoiled and they kind of hung on for a point, didn't really come out to play. Brentford were getting more and more frustrated. And you just felt the pressure by Leeds losing just gave a different influence to the game. They didn't just go out and play. It's just a human nature that players sometimes, and Marcus maybe will explain this much more eloquently than me, is that sometimes players play the situation, in their heads rather than what's out on the pitch. So my one fear is that the players may think about the prize too deeply and not just go out and play. Go out and play against Fulham. Don't think about it's 3 points and we've just got to win. Do you know what? If Brentford play to the best of their talents, they've already beaten Fulham this season and beaten them comfortably. So they can go and do that again tomorrow. But it's just my one fear, and it's only a mild fear, is that the young team who have no fear develop a fear, because as the games get bigger, as we get towards the final prize, is that they just get a little nervous. But other than that, I'm pretty confident, Stu.
I will ask Marcus to respond to that in just a second, but just to say, do keep the comments coming on Facebook and YouTube. Well, how do you think it's going to go tomorrow? Where are you going to be watching? What are your expectations? Do put the messages on. We can see them here as they come in. We'll put some of those. And if you've got any particular questions for any of the boys, for Mark, for Mick, or for Marcus, then they're happy to take your questions as well. But Marcus, do you want to pick up on that, the point that Mick just raised there? Are there any niggling worries in the back of your mind?
They're valid worries as well, but I just think that the boys are so professional, and their approach to each training session and games is top class. They would understand the importance of controlling the controllables. They can't play game 8 out of this sequence of 9 tomorrow. They've got to play the first game and just take that game as it is and play the occasion. And Thomas, that's the message that he puts into the players every day. It's the first session is the most important one, the next game is the most important one, and so on and so on. So it's about probably trying to rein them in just a little bit so they don't get too carried away and build up that sort of anxiety and maybe overdo things, and where the mistakes can creep in. But I've got a lot of faith in the youngsters that are out there. They've got good experience around the team. Someone like with Pontus and Hendrik Dalsgaard as well, they will reassure the boys just to take their time and be patient.
One thing that strikes me, gentlemen, and Daniel on Facebook has mentioned any gossip about Ben Rama, and maybe now's not the time or the place to talk about some of the stuff that's been in the papers recently about Ben Rama and his possible future. But we've been focusing on people. We mentioned BMW a few times, but we haven't really focused a great deal on our so-called stars. Mark, is that because we just know what they're capable of, that it's not even worth mentioning, we don't talk about, or do you think that it's going to be a different kind of game, and the beautiful silky skills of Ben Rama are not going to be quite as crucial as they would be in another kind of match?
Oh, you've read all the speculation of Chelsea looking to bid very large values for him, and undoubtedly fans will be watching him. They'll want to make sure his attitude is right. He'll no doubt feel a little bit of pressure. Marcus would be able to tell us more about that, I would imagine. I would think he would thrive in this environment. And Marcus was saying earlier about how, when he does his tricks, he buzzes off the crowd. But we know what talent he's got. He's still got a wonderful platform there, with all these games being shown live, and people will be really pleased that he's with us and going to hopefully see the season getting us over the line and into the Premier League. Whatever happens then, happens then. But all of our players have got clubs looking at them, I'm sure, no doubt in one way or other. But the main thing is, all you want as a fan, you want your players to be focused and committed to doing the job. We've seen players from other clubs, so I don't need to mention them, I'm talking about, who don't want to carry on playing, and you have to respect their opinions, and it's going to divide fans. I think we understand their reasons, but a football fan, we only ever want people who are committed to the cause, don't we? That's all we ever want, and that's why we fall in love with players, even if they're not of the same ability. If they're wholehearted, we love them.
And then I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, and because we've got tomorrow to think about and enjoy and then dissect. But using David Raya's phrase of this is 9 cup finals. We've got 1 cup final tomorrow, and then another 8 cup finals, Mick, to come. So, every game's a big one. We talked about the first 2 games being absolutely crucial in terms of building momentum and keeping those automatic promotion hopes alive. But, whichever way the first couple of games go, every single game is crucial.
Yeah, and I think I spoke with Mark about this earlier in the week, and I said, you know what, Reading is a really important game because everybody's focusing on Fulham and West Brom, and the big thing is that if you lose the game tomorrow, it doesn't mean your season's over. It really doesn't. But also what it does mean is if we do really well against Fulham and West Brom, you can trip up at Reading away because everybody's expecting us to do well at Reading away. You just apply yourself. And as Marcus has said, I think it's really a kind of professional attitude is that if you control the emotions, control the controllables, Marcus said, that's exactly a player's mentality. If you're on top of your emotions, then you're on top of your game. And I think that's what Thomas Frank, this is where him as head coach really has got to come to the fore. You can do the tactical analysis, and that's what comes to what comes into play and how the players play. But he has to keep them in a situation where you're playing behind closed doors, where he has to, as he said, he'll be heard more often than he is on a normal Saturday. And will the players be listening? And that's the key to this, is the players listen to the head coach, they listen to the tactical analysis and express themselves. If they express themselves and play tactically well, we know that we're already 4th in the table, but on our day, what's really interesting, Stuart, is that Brentford win matches in pockets of minutes and they score goals. We go to that QPR home game. We destroy QPR in a couple of minutes in the first half and the game is done. Brentford have the ability to do that in the 9 games. They don't have to play flat out 90-minute football in any of these 9 games. They have the ability to score 2 goals in 5 minutes. They scored 3 against Millwall in 8 minutes to win 3-2. They have that ability of a top team to turn on the afterburners, really kick in, get 2 goals ahead, and that kind of is a real fillip for a side seeking promotion. And if you can't get the top 2, we can destroy somebody like Nottingham Forest in the playoffs by having a really good 10 minutes, and Forest don't have the quality to come back after that.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Actually, we both, I think, QPR games to some extent this season back up what you just said there, Mick. I've got the goal times here. 28th of October. Brentford QPR at the Kine Stadium. Goals 23 minutes, 46 minutes, 57 minutes, 60-minute penalty, job done. And then the 11th of January, Brentford at home. Benrahma 90 minutes and this is the classic BMW scoring in order. Oh, not quite. Yes, scoring in order. 11th of January, Benrahma 90 minutes, Mbumo 23 minutes, Watkins 33 minutes, job done.
And that's the key, Stuart, is that Brentford don't have to play the 90 minutes. They can tactically use their substitutions, but they can put their quality. So you can get teams like Wigan at home and like I say, play poorly for 60 minutes. But you know what? You just put all the cylinders on and Brentford have enough to power through and win 2-0 and get out of dodge and on to the next one. And that's exactly how Brentford have to play. They've been playing it and winning games quite easily, only playing for 10, 15 minutes at a time. But when they play like they did against Fulham at home and they play for 90 minutes, we're a good team.
Marcus, give us a bit of a roadmap, if you will, just to quickly run through them. Every Bees fan will have them tattooed on the inside of their eyelids, if not stuck on their notice boards in the on the fridge. Fulham tomorrow, of course. West Brom next Friday. Then we've got Reading away, Wigan at home, Charlton at home, Derby away, Preston, Stoke, and Barnsley. Give us a bit of a roadmap, Marcus, if you would, of how you think the rhythm of those 9 games may play out.
Well, I'm just glad we've got the restart is against a top side in Fulham. The second game is going to be against another great side as well in West Brom. So if we can overcome those and stay unbeaten in that, I think we can get on a really good run of games, take it into the Reading game, and just build up that momentum. I think this is the time where Brentford could really just put that run of games together. We had it in the very last one all those days ago against Sheffield Wednesday. Maybe that was the start of our little burst to really push in for that final 2 places. And if it's not the final 2 places, then we're in a really good position to stay in the playoffs and go again. So I just think there's going to be, as Mick said earlier, there's probably going to be one slip up out of this run, and then after that, I just think we'll just fly through and stay unbeaten.
Well, let's try and guess the slip up, if you like, then, Mark. Given those 9 games, if you were to put your money on the slip up, where do you see the potential spot of black ice? I'm struggling for a metaphor off the top of my head, but where's the black ice on the road in those? Where's the black ice on the road to Wembley? There we are. That'll do.
Well, if you were looking for one that you'd say, well, that's a definite 3 points, you'd say Charlton at home, wouldn't you? I remember when we were travelling, I think back from Huddersfield, and I was saying to me, I'm not so sure we've got, like some of these other teams, I'm not sure we've got that really bad performance in us that surprises everyone. And Mick said, quite prophetically, he said, I'm worried about Luton away. And so it proved, a game that was frustrating, an evening where it always looked like we could step up our game, and we never really did anything. It was the start of the second half, the 2-0 at half time. It's not that you could take that, but you could see where the goals were scored. There was no reaction for half an hour in that second half. That was frustrating for the fans. And B Positives just asked a very good question. Saying what Mick said is right. We do have that ability. I felt in the past we would dominate games, but we weren't clinical enough. We'd get a goal, we'd create another chance and another chance, wouldn't take advantage, and another team would score. And that's why we were always just outside the playoffs. This season, we've got that ability to be clinical. The one thing we haven't done is manage to win games from behind. If they score early, it's not okay. At Barnsley, we did. That's pretty well been a bit of an exception to the rule. But there have been a few games where we've gone behind and it has been frustrating. We haven't been able to break them down. And maybe that's the final piece of the jigsaw that will complete the season. And we will see in the run of it. To get back to your question, after going around the houses, I don't want to predict where it is, Stuart, because whatever will happen will happen. Going out there as all fans wanting to win all 9. And if that's not good enough, and I'd hope it would be to get automatic promotion, then looking to win the playoffs. But you take it as a fan, don't you? You take each game as it comes, and you're realistic to know that you can't win them all. But if we come out of these 2 games with 4 points, then to me everything changes a little. Yes, I really look at West Brom's run-in and I look at Leeds' run-ins, but pressure is pressure. There's a load of pressure on Leeds. I think they'll benefit from the break probably more than any other team, the way Bielsa has them playing.
Okay, guys. Mark, we always talk about this. Marcus, we always talk about it on the show. I'll give you a win in the next week and a draw in the next week. Judging on the top 2, are you going to take a draw at Fulham tomorrow and win at West Brom? You can only have 4 points. Which would it be, tactically?
Fantasy football there. Go on. Which one should we go for?
I think we'd win tomorrow. I think we'd win tomorrow and draw next week.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I always want to beat Fulham, but to be honest, if we're going to go top 2, I think we can claw back. Fulham have got a tougher run in. I think they'll be happy with a draw tomorrow and beating West Brom on Friday. But that's only if the genie said that we had to have the 4 points and distribute them as you so choose.
I think for me, even though it's Fulham, I think it'll be slightly different. I'm prepared to suspend some of my usual feelings about a Fulham match, given that it's behind closed doors, because I just like seeing the faces of Fulham fans when we beat them. And given that we haven't got a chance to do that tomorrow, I would take a draw tomorrow, and definitely I will very much enjoy a win against West Brom. So that would be my take on things. Before we move on, Mick, I'm just going to give you a chance to make the counter argument to the argument you just made, but just a chance to pick up on what Be Positive was said. You were arguing the case about us winning games in short spells. But what happens if the opposition do score early, and then we've got we're chasing being 1-0 down?
It's an excellent point. And you look at Birmingham at home, first game of the season, and Huddersfield in November, where we just ran out of ideas. And what we did was we they got the goal on the hour against us at Huddersfield, and then we started to panic, and then we started to lose our shape, then we started to have no system at all. And going back to Marcus's point, Marcus said, control the mind, control how you play. And that's the key, is that if you fall behind, I cast your mind back to the Barnsley away game, the Millwall home game, 2-0 down, and we're all filtering out, and it's a very different season. They score one goal, Brentford, they're a different team. If they can get one goal back, but it's just about maintaining your discipline. And we are a lot tighter at the back with Pontus. There's no doubt about it. Mark gave the stat earlier in the show. So if you keep it tight, if we do let in a goal, it's keeping calm. And once we get back on level terms, you can't see the other team going back down the other end and scoring. That's the kind of mentality that Brentford have got to have. So the counter argument is, we'll still score goals in pockets. It's just to keep calm if we do go behind and not start to lose our shape, as we have done in some 0-1 defeats.
And at the risk of dissolving into pop psychology, Mick, but given that behind closed, we will be behind closed doors, do you think there's going to be any additional danger if we do go behind, that, especially for the home games, that we haven't got that additional push of the fans behind them to really get back in that game? Do you think there's any danger at all that if we do go behind, that Griffin Park crowd pushing the boys on to equalise and go ahead may not be there?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. However, Marcus will be very good at telling you how to play at Griffin Park. It's a very tight pitch, but can be, Brentford just use the space really well. I mean, you know, it's your home pitch. You kind of know the nuances and where to run. And you know, it's one of them things. It just feels at home. But Marcus will be able to tell you that much more. You know, with the crowd, it is different. There is no doubt about that. So it's a good point you make, Stuart. But the difference is, if you're at home, if you've ever been to Griffin Park and ever been in that away dressing room, it's one of the most uncultured places probably on earth to be. It doesn't feel very welcoming, even when there's no people there. So the away dressing room is a work of art, really. But you know, you actually look at these things, and Brentford are a really home team for a number of reasons. Really good, strong home team. But you know, it's the same as if you stepped out of Griffin Park now, Marcus. You probably remember where it is and the tight places and where to run to. Whereas if you're playing at away game, I know it's green grass and it's got the white lines, but home feels home, doesn't it?
I do actually. Before we pick up on it, I have heard rumours, and they are unsubstantiated, that the Americans, when they were looking to do enhanced interrogation, they looked at the away dressing room at Griffin Park as a way of getting information out of people. That if you wanted to put additional pressure on people, pop them in the away dressing room for a little while, and soon you'll get the information you want. It's just a rumor. But Marcus, back to the serious matters. Do you want to pick up on that about chasing down losses if we go behind, and just that general sense of our boys knowing Griffin Park so well?
Yeah, it's going to be it's a new normal for the boys to adapt to. They're not going to have that extra G'ing up from the fans, and that's going to be strange for the boys to adapt. So they have to do that all on their own. Basically, they've got to draw on strength from everybody out on that pitch, and try and perform. So it's going to be interesting to see the first chance of the game, if it's taken or not, and the reaction to that. So hopefully we can get the first opportunity in the game. Can we take it? Can we work the keeper and build our confidence? And if we do go one behind, hopefully we don't. It's going to be a test of character of how we react to it, because the games are going to be ticking away. Time's going to go fast. Games are going to just disperse. We haven't got any more sort of honeymoon period to really make a real good go for this. So we have to take our chances, the good chances, when they do arise.
We're going to move on towards our sort of final section, the section that I call extra time, a chance to mop up any other things that are on your minds. A last chance for you, if you're watching at home, to put your messages to the gentleman on Facebook and YouTube. If there's anything you want to know, anything you want to ask, any final observations about either tomorrow's game or the other 8 games, then now is your chance. Pop it in the YouTube chat, and we'll get to that in the extra time session. But Marcus, given that we have the privilege of you being with us today, I want to talk a little bit about something that's not Brentford specific, but that's the Black Lives Matter issue, which obviously didn't start in any way as a footballing issue, but has become a part of the football debate. And as somebody who works so hard and works so much on the issue of racism in sport and racism in the wider community, what's your take on what's been happening in the way the Black Lives Matter discussion has been going on in football over the last week or so, especially after the first Premier League games this week?
You know, it's tragic situations that have brought this to light now. The conversation's always been there. I just think we've been talking on deaf ears at times, and football's now reacting to it. You know, it's doing a lot of hashtags, a lot of campaigns now. I think everybody wants to be seen to be doing their one little bit, which is totally fine. If you had to ask me personally, do I agree with Black Lives Matter on the shirts? I'd probably say no. I think that there's enough talk going on, and there needs to be action. We need to be seeing changes instead of hearing about changes. So yes, it is a good way of showing solidarity on one hand, but I think it's going to probably open a can of worms up. Right, the little dog's having a little bad dream. Don't worry, boy. Don't worry. Don't worry. I've got you.
Have you fed him today, Mark?
Right.
Have you fed him?
What? You don't know what he's done over there while we've been on air.
Oh yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing you ain't got smell-o-vision right now. It's all right. It's all right. It's been sorted.
At the risk of damaging a family show, I take it we're talking we're talking number twos rather than number ones.
Yeah, I think so.
And I know you. I believe you've just moved house, and in the GAYLE household, because in my household we haven't got pets, but we have cats who live nearby who think they live in our house, and I'm basically the designated pooper scooper. How does it work in GAYLE Towers? Oh, he's gone. Anybody? Was it? He's taking his headphones off. I don't know what's happened to Marcus there.
He'll twig in a minute. They'll be going back in.
The batteries have run out, have they?
Oh, the batteries are gone. Oh,
is that what happened?
Are we substituting Mr. GAYLE?
He's. I have no idea what's happened to Marcus.
Come on, Ambassador.
I think the trouble is, Stuart, you brought the level down talking about cats.
I think he's
doing naughties in your garden, and it all went pear-shaped. I think there's your link.
I should know better. Marcus, are you back with us? No, he's. There. Try.
No.
Hang on. I have no idea what's happened there. We'll come back to it. But well, where do we go there, boys? We got an unexpected break in. Marcus, are you back?
Am I here?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah.
So where was we? Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. What happened? Just for the record, there. What the hell happened there, Marcus?
My AirPods run out of charge. These little things.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But so how come you're back again? Did you borrow?
No, just put them in the little case for a little minute or so.
Well, we'll understand if you go again. But let's try and get the completion of the. I'm interested that you say that you don't think that it should be on the shirts because
no.
Just talk us through that.
I just think it's going to make. It's a big political statement as well. The big changes we need to see are higher up in the hierarchy of football clubs, coaching, management, boardrooms, etc., and how we're perceived in general. I think that's a bigger statement instead of just having the Black Lives Matter scribbled on shirts and stuff. But I understand why it's more important to have solidarity shown, and I think that's what the campaign really is about. Is that there are voices that are black, and at the moment we can see around the world what is happening. Some of it is very uncomfortable, and we need to sit and have a really good conversation about it.
Apologies to Malcolm, who I think our discussion of doggy doo-doo has put him off his dinner. Understandably so. Sorry, Malcolm. No more talk of
Sorry, Malcolm.
anything of that nature. We will. And Kevin in Ohio, my friend Kevin, saying, Marcus, he thinks your dog wants his earphones back. And actually, for those of us who haven't seen, why don't we do it now? A little. Can we see the dog, Marcus?
No, he's quite sheepish now because he knows he's done what he's done, innit? He's done a whoopsie.
So he is literally in the doghouse.
He's in the doghouse. He's right down there. So he's just behaving now. He knows he's in trouble.
I'm no entrepreneur, but I think the 2020 Dogs of Brentford FC may be the calendar. 2021 Dogs of Brentford FC may be the one, or maybe Dog Do of Brentford FC 2021. I think that's going to be a big seller. Well, maybe when he's feeling when he's feeling like he's done his punishment, we can see him another time then, Marcus. But Mick and Mark, although obviously I'm very aware that although we are entitled to have our opinion on the Black Lives Matter issue, we are three middle-aged white men. But I think the one thing that we can all agree on is that one thing that Marcus has made clear is that what the Black Lives Matter issue has done is that it's shown a sense that all players are coming together and saying, look, that racism has no place, let alone in sport, in wider society.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Mark, you go.
I was just going to say, I remember the game in Bulgaria, Sofia, wasn't it, when England won 6-0, but the game was stopped twice, and we did a home game straight after that, and I wanted to talk about it at half time on the show because it was staggering and it was sickening, and I know it seemed to be an organised small amount in the crowd, but saying to Marcus afterwards, what happens with this? How do you stop it? And the general feeling was football doesn't do enough. The authorities don't do enough. They'll give a paltry fine, and it's just an insult to the whole stigma, to the whole situation. And what needs to be done, is football start to grow a pair, if you want to call it that. And it now looks as if football has led. And it has been, a very testing time in the world at the moment with everything going on with the virus, and then of course the tragic death, awful, horrendous, shocked everybody, and I think it's brought a lot of people to their senses of what goes on, equality. And as you say, Stuart, we're three middle-aged white guys. We've come through. We've been on this earth long enough to have seen a huge change in a multicultural society. Things that were said in banter years ago certainly aren't funny in this day and age, as a lot of things have changed, and we've got to all embrace and everybody's got to get on. Why should one race of people be regarded as any superior? Why should there be any privileges? It's been talking to my own staff, and I've learned a lot from Marcus to learn about white privilege. And I don't want to make this political, but if you'd asked me 15 years ago, have you got white privilege? I'd have argued there was no such thing. I've learned that that's not the case. So it's good to see it addressed. We know that it's the first 12 games in the Premier League, so it's made an important message. It's very interesting to hear Marcus say, that's probably not what he wants, and he wants to see action. Rightly so. We've had the Rooney Rule, which was introduced in America, but it's got to go deeper than that.
And Mick, before we wrap up. Going back to what we said at the start is, it's easy to say, it's about any issue, whether it's very important ones like racism and equality, or just the fact that it's football for some people is pure entertainment, and that's fine. But one thing I've noticed this week, not only with the Black Lives Matter thing, but with the Marcus Rashford causing a change to government policy, that yes, it is football, it is a sport, but it just goes to show what can happen when people who we look up to, who are heroes to many, when they decide to engage in social issues, they can make a real difference and a real positive one. I think it's been absolutely remarkable what Marcus Rashford managed to do in terms of government policies for kids whose families can't afford to buy them food over the weekend, and you know, all credit to him for that, for getting that issue on the agenda and getting the government to take notice.
Yeah, he struck me as a very impressive young man. I mean, not only in what he did, but how he spoke about it, and he spoke from the heart. And that's the key to these matters, is that he has a personal experience. He knows what it's about, and that's what he was striving for. It wasn't the politics as such, it was just the cause. And, you know, you look at politics and sport, and there's an old saying of you must never mix politics with sport. And there's a famous cricket commentator, John Arlott, said many years ago, oh yeah, but you can actually mix it for the right reason and to make your point. And Marcus's point is that sports people have a voice, and they have a very powerful voice, and they can influence things. And Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling, they've all made salient, eloquent points in the last year. And that's the kind of thing that, you know, we talk to Marcus a lot about his activities and what he does. And he's a marvellous ambassador for Brentford Football Club. And Brentford Football Club are very, very lucky to have him, in that we're educating, we're a diverse culture, and we embrace everything. It's part of what we are. We know, you know, people are fundamentally, they know what's right and what's wrong, and they know what's right and wrong in the world, and that's the key point. And I think that, you know, I think at Brentford we're doing a lot of things that are right, and like I said, it's one of these things that it's just, on certain things like Marcus Rashford, he's just made a brilliant point, and he's executed it excellently and quickly. And it's just a very powerful statement that sometimes sport can influence politics.
And at the risk of this turning into a Marcus Gale loving, the one thing I would say is it's interesting to hear you both saying how much you've learned from Marcus. And I think what's Marcus, if I can say, one of the reasons why you're a great ambassador is you don't mind answering the stupid questions. That not only do we respect you as a player, but if we, you know, given your experience is very different to ours, if we got stupid questions, and probably, I'm sure if a fan asks you a stupid question on a match day, you're there to explain it to us, to help us understand these issues better.
Well, that's what I'm all about. I like to clear up any sort of confusion or misunderstandings with any sort of topic. But for me to do that, I've got to be genuine in myself in terms of who I am. I do a lot of reading and watching a lot of stuff online, just to put myself in a position to help anyone that does ask anything that might be a bit quirky as a question. So I'm always trying to evolve and grow as an individual, grow as a person, so I can be effective to many people out there.
Thanks for that, Marcus, and thanks for your honesty and answering those questions. Let's wrap up now. Final call for questions, queries from viewers, but I'll start with you, Mick. Your final thoughts as we wrap up on tomorrow and the exciting weeks ahead.
I just think that this is starting to whet the appetite, Stuart. This is you know, Friday night before a big game. It's almost forgotten what that's like. It's a really exciting stage that Brentford have a really good chance of getting to the top level. They have a really, really good chance. And if they don't make top two, we have got not just making up the numbers in the playoffs, but we have an excellent chance of getting up by the playoffs. So to me, football is back. It's not quite as we know it, but, you know, everybody that's kind of tuning in tonight is just starting to get that kind of, you know, excitement back again, that, you know, some normality coming back to their lives, and some normality is having their Brentford back. And it's just a very exciting time. And who knows where the next 8 weeks will take us, but hopefully it's going to take us to the promised land.
Mark, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, really looking forward to tomorrow. Like everybody else, I think football's almost been a little bit forgotten. We've tried to get into it by watching the Bundesliga and build ourselves up to this. But we're on the eve of something big. It might take fans a few games to get in. We'll be doing our best on commentary for anyone new to iFollow. We don't have monitors. We don't see action replays. We have to give you our one opinion as things are going on. We have a huge disadvantage in that sense to the the TV commentators, but we'll try and do as good a job as possible. And I hope fans enjoy it, and we're all together in this. And let's hope it's a wonderful end to the season. Can I finally say, great program on YouTube tonight, Brentford YouTube. It's going to be on every Friday. It's called Running. And Marcus Gale earlier was talking about the fact he never got a Man of the Match award for his superb performance in that 4-0 hammering of Fulham. Marcus, I've got your salver, mate. It's here.
Oh, wow. I'll look after that when I get it, Mark. But thanks a lot. If I get it, yeah.
Yeah, nice one from the guys at the club and Stu Wakeford and so on. I haven't had a chance to watch the run in yet because
really good, good, very slick.
Other Brentford television programs are available, but yeah, congratulations! I'll be watching that as soon as I get on off air. Mark, and actually, just. This is probably of more interest to me than being something of a geek than anyone else. How's it going to work for you and the commentary team tomorrow? So just talk us through. Have you had an email saying make sure you're wearing a mask, or talk us through the day tomorrow? You'll be presumably leaving home fairly early for the 12:30 kickoff, and how's it all going to work?
Yeah, I think I'll leave at about 9:15. It'll probably take me 45 minutes, I would have thought, to get to Fulham. Quite happy to sit in the car park. We're not meant to get to the ground normally we're at the ground 2.5 hours before kickoff, sometimes a little bit more. Go in, you get fed, which is often a highlight, and but mainly you've got time to sit down and read the programs. There won't be any of that tomorrow. You'll be going in at about an hour before kickoff, so I'll make my way, probably leave the car at about 11:10, get to the ground at 11:30, and I understand we go literally straight into our seats. There will be a little bit of dead air at half time because we will go off for a comfort break. That may change as we go along. We're very much working our way into this, but the one thing I hope is that all the new people do enjoy as much as possible, and I think our moods will be very swayed by the team and the results out there, but let's try and enjoy it as much as we can. It's not ideal, as Marcus said earlier. Football without crowds isn't football as we know it and love it, but we've got a job to be done, and that's to get to the Premier League. So,
and I know you normally spend your Friday evening prepping for a game. Are you preparing for the game any differently as a result of? Well, not only are you probably going to have a much bigger audience for some of these games, which is fantastic, because obviously we won't be there in person.
5 pages in my book, lots of facts. Jonathan Birchall's brilliant, helps me with a lot of them. So some incredible ones here, like the longest time we've gone without football in a season before. The longest gap was 52 days in the 63 season of the Big Freeze, and I was about 2.5 at that time. So, but the main thing is just to try and let the game flow, and we'll be doing audio as usual. It'll take a bit of getting used to for people, but we'll take feedback and see what people like. Hope people are generous and not too scathing. But we'll see how it goes. And of course, Chris will be brilliant tomorrow, but looking forward to having Mick back as always for the game against West Bromwich Albion on Friday, and hopefully the rest of the season. And potentially it could be a bit of a squeeze. If the Sky cameras come to Griffin Park, it could be a bit of a squeeze on that gantry. How's that going to work? We won't be on the gantry. We will be on Bramer Roadside. So it's a different side for us, because obviously you've been up there, Stuart, Marcus says as well.
You'll be in the press box.
We will be in the press box, yeah. So I know that there's very limited numbers at these, and you have to have your social distancing. Up on the gantry, obviously the TV cameras have to take precedence. So it's where we were in the old days. So that'll be fine. We'll have a good view of the pitch, and hopefully do a half-decent job. And it'll have to be for both of you, for Mick as well. When you go up to West Brom, it'll have to be drive-through KFC. Oh, actually, you'll have to go separately. We're home. Yeah, we're home against West Brom, but yeah, Derby and Stoke. At the moment, the rules and regulations are we have to travel in separate vehicles. So I would imagine we might meet up at Derby somewhere like Donington Services, and then go in convoy of the two of us from there. So
At a 2 metre distance.
Yeah, yeah. So we will see.
Gentlemen, the glamour of your life never fails to amaze me. Can you imagine a socially distant meeting at Donington Services, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, yes.
And remember, Mark, tomorrow not to walk too briskly to the ground because they're taking your temperature as you get into the ground. So
yes,
we want you to pass that fitness test in the morning, Mark.
Yeah,
well, Mark is a well-oiled machine. I'm sure even after a brisk walk, he would still his heart rate wouldn't break 75. I'm sure you'll pass the test. And Marcus, finally to you, your final thoughts on either on Fulham tomorrow or the 8 games that follow afterwards.
A bit of both. I just hope we just get a good start tomorrow. It's going to be a new way of going about things for the time being. Hopefully the players can just enjoy themselves, express themselves, and try and get us that 3 points that we rightfully want to take home. We've got to be patient on and off the field, fans as well. And if we don't quite get the win, then a little bit of patience is going to be needed as well. Is that we've got another 8 games to go and accumulate the points to keep us in those playoff positions, and if not the top 2. But everyone's going to have their own way of dealing with the results as they come, the performances. There's no sort of release on a match day for the fans. They can't just scream and let it out, a bit of frustration. But as I said, a little bit of patience and understanding about the whole situation, because we're all in it together. But hopefully together we will achieve the so-called impossible and make it into that promised land.
The promised land awaits. It is just 9 games, 9 games and possibly a couple more away. And they all start tomorrow at 12:30 at Craven Cottage. Brentford taking on Fulham. After 105 days of hurt, Brentford are finally back. I hope you get some sleep tonight. It does feel like the night before Christmas a little bit, but, there'll be a lot of excited people going to bed tonight. But I'm sure we will all be glued to our TV sets. And our iFollow streams tomorrow at 12:30 with Mark and Chris Wickham, and for the games to follow. My post-match podcast will be up tomorrow afternoon or evening at beesbulletin.co.uk or via your favourite podcast provider. You can continue the conversation at the Bees Bulletin Facebook page. I know some Brentford fans have been watching the games tonight live on Sky, so they haven't been able to watch live. But if you're catching up later on catch up, then you can continue the conversation. I'll put up a post for that on the Bees Bulletin Facebook page, so just search for Bees Bulletin on Facebook and you can continue with your thoughts. And just a little commercial break that we love doing these programs. We do them for a lot of fun, and we don't make any money from them, but there is some merchandise available that pays for the hosting and all the sort of stuff that comes out of my pocket to keep the shows going. So if you go to the Bees Bulletin Facebook page, you can pick up a t-shirt and buy an early Christmas present. But gentlemen, for now, thank you so much. Mick Cabble, Mark Burridge, Marcus GAYLE, thank you so much for your thoughts. And to you at home, enjoy your weekend. We certainly will. Enjoy the game, and we'll be back very soon.